I've got my Cayman back! Oh yes! Oh, it's a great place to be. Cayman back! I have got my Cayman back. The coolant hoses are fixed. Thank you, Porsche Brooklands. I had to get the car collected by them and they dropped it off yesterday. Today's the first day I'm flexing the wheels of my car in about a month and it feels great to be back in the car. Thank you, Mike. Mike is the mechanic who looked after me. He actually did some filming for me. He gave us an overview of what he did on the car. I dropped him off with he gave him my GoPro. And yeah, over to you, Mike. Mike gave us some incredible insight that goes on in the Porsche garage. It really makes you know where your money's gone. And to all those people that think, oh, just go change your coolant hoses at home. They changed every part of the coolant system at the front of the car. No way I could have done that at home. You check for yourself in this video. I think they did an awesome job. Thank you, Porsche Brooklands. Thank you, Mike. And yeah, hope you enjoy this video. Enjoy life and cars to the max. See ya.
Hello, my name's Michael. I'm a technician at Porsche Brooklands. Max REVS has left his car with us today to have the coolant crossover pipes replaced due to a leak on the offside front, which is this bottom hose here, which is currently leaking. So to do this job correctly, it's going to involve draining the whole cooling system. We're going to be replacing everything from this point onwards towards the front, except for the coolant radiators. We'll be removing this front subframe, supporting the fuel tank, because the subframe is part of the support for the fuel tank. And I'll show you a few steps as we go along. Okay, so we're about to start removing the subframe. To do this, we're going to remove the anti-roll bar drop links here, both sides. We're going to disconnect the lower arm from here, both sides. We'll then be undoing the supporting bars here and here. Like I said before, we're going to support the fuel tank, remove strap 1 and strap 2. This is what actually holds the fuel tank in place. After removing all those items on both sides, then we'll be removing the big bolts all around the outside here and here, and then removing this subframe down so we can gain access to the coolant crossover pipes, which are up here behind the fuel tank and behind the steering rack. Okay, so we've started to remove the subframe here, as you can see. It's hanging here, supported by those suspension arms. Now I was expecting it to be removed by this point, but we've actually come across an unexpected problem, which is the suspension arm here. This bolt that runs through the lower suspension arm is actually seized inside the bush, so we cannot remove it. So we normally in this situation you'd use heat. We can't use heat due to the rubber component inside the lower arm. So we're going to have a go at trying to hammer this pin out. Once we get this bolt out, then we should be able to remove the subframe. As you can see here, we've actually started to remove this bolt now. It took a bit of hammering. We went from using a hammer like this to using a hammer like this, and eventually the bolt decided that it was going to break free, which is good. So we've managed to save the lower suspension arm, which I'm sure Max will be very pleased about, as that would have been extra cost to this job, but we will have to replace this bolt now. Okay, so we finally got the subframe removed, as you can see here. Now what I like to do is once we've removed it, is just pop all the bolts back in the holes, because they do vary in length, and obviously you want to get the right length back into the right hole. We've started draining the cooling system, so we're going to drain it from the rear. It's quite a straightforward process. Simply pull back this clip, you're going to remove the coolant hose, and out will come the coolant. Make sure you collect it. And we're going to also do it from this hose here to make sure the engine is fully drained, so it makes it easier to refill. So we're going to go to the front. And as you can see here, a lot clearer now. You can see the offending pipe, which is leaking. We're going to be replacing this part that it goes into and the hose itself, and you can actually see the crossovers which are behind that steering rack here and how they're tapped up in there. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these now. Okay, so here are the coolant crossover pipes successfully removed. This is the offending one here. Now what we'll be doing here at Porsche Brooklands, when we do a job like this, we will replace every part of this coolant crossover system that you see in front of you, purely because if another part was to fail, if we was to reuse an old part and it would fail, that means there's another labour cost to the customer, which is essentially unnecessary if we can do it all at the same time. So what I'm going to attempt to do now is make that pile of new bits look like this old coolant crossover section, and then we'll be refitting it to the car. Right, so we've successfully assembled all the new parts, looking very similar to the old ones. Now one thing to bear in mind if you are attempting to do this at home yourself is that all the pipes are marked L and R, so obviously make sure you get them on the right side. But also they are actually different bores for the top and bottom of the radiators. They're very slightly different in size, and it is possible to put the smaller one in the bigger hole and think it is fitted correctly. So just make sure that you get that all around the right way. another step. So what we're going to do now is try and reinsert these into the car. Just before we do that, one thing to make sure is that the clips that support the pipes in place, just go around and make sure these are all fitted correctly. Now it is possible to actually fit the rubber part into these pipes with these clips not fitted correctly. Now what will happen is a few miles down the road, the pipe will then push itself out with all that pressure and you'll lose all your coolant quite instantly. So when you do, if you are attempting any of this work at home yourself, just make sure that the clip is fully pressed in and against it stops, as you can see, one here. And another good telltale is that you can see past the clip inside the pipe. So if this is sitting like this means it is ready for the new pipe to clip right in and hook underneath that, holding it securely. Okay, so subframe has now all been refitted with its new coolant crossover pipes. All now fitted. Last thing to do on the job, I'll just carry out a 4-wheel alignment on the vehicle and then Max will be back at Max Revs, thanks to Porsche Brooklands. Thank you for watching these videos today and I hope they've been informative.
One thing I just remembered to say is they did a 4-wheel alignment as part of the work to replace all the coolant hoses, and it's got to be said, I think a 4-wheel alignment should be done probably every year if you can get round to it, because I've got a video on my channel where I took it to Wheels in Motion. You can see they did the 4-wheel alignment there. That was about 2 years ago. Every time I get the wheel alignment done, I always get the printout before and after, and what you'll see is there was a number of corrections that they have done on the car just this week. So essentially, wheel alignment is not just a one-off thing. You almost want to factor that in every year, which is what I'm going to do now, because it picks up movement in the car, you know.